Thank you for joining us for the SaaS Billing Beyond Subscriptions webinar. My name is Craig Wise. I'm a Billing Platform team, and we're very excited to have you join us for this webinar. I would like now to introduce today's presenter. Our presenter is Brian Dingman, who brings over 15 years of experience to Billing Platform. He's been helping customers of all sizes achieve transformational growth through innovative software, services, and solutions. Brian serves as Billing Platform's Senior Solutions Consultant. Previously lead sales engineer for Salesforce, Brian offers a wealth of knowledge and experience in cloud-based technology, specifically around the quote-to-cash process. He excels at translating complex scenarios into solutions that help businesses succeed. I'm thrilled to introduce our presenter, Brian. Brian, I'll hand it over to you.
Great, thanks, Craig. So real quick agenda of what we're going to go through today. We'll talk very briefly about some SaaS pricing models. We'll then show how we can take these SaaS models, combine them and hybridize them, and we'll run through a quick demonstration of Billing Platform. And then we'll finish up with any questions. So 30 minutes is not a lot of time, so I'll keep things moving here. When we talk about billing and SaaS billing, there's a whole bunch of different options out there, and we see flat rate, usage, tiered, per user, per active user, hybrid, which is my favorite. We're seeing more and more of that, and then this whole freemium model. And we'll show in the demonstration today a combination of really all of these coming together, whether it's flat rate plus tiers plus usage, per user obviously is always in there, and then a whole concept of kind of freemium, so subscription with overage. In terms of the demonstration overview, we'll start off with just kind of an orientation of Billing Platform. What's the application look like? How, we log into the home screen, just kind of get everybody familiar with capabilities that are available. And then we'll dive into specific products in the product catalog to show some of these hybrid complexes of billing models. So we'll start with the subscription with overage and attribute-based rating, and that's, it could be one or more attributes. We'll just do one for today. And then we'll move into formula-based. So billing people love Excel. And we've taken the capability of writing formulas to basically generate products. And then we'll finish on the account side. So we create these products, we run usage and go through our mediation, and then we'll create an invoice and kind of go through the other end of the process. So what does that look like to the customer? And then we'll finish up with questions, as I mentioned. So with that, I'll hop over into the demonstration and make sure that anybody on my team, if the screen is not showing, they'll ping me, but otherwise you should be seeing my home screen. And I'm logged in as a billing user here, so I could have a different role. The application is role-based. Roles will allow you to see and hide different aspects of the application. For example, you might want to hide the alerts tab over on the left-hand side. You might want to hide the collections module. All of that's controlled through role-based security. We also have sharing groups to limit access to the data. And then finally, the application is single sign-on based as well. So on the home screen, it's configurable. As I go through today, keep in mind the entire platform in Billing Platform is point and click. What that means is you can configure the application through a declarative interface. You don't need to do configuration or coding, I should say, to change anything like layouts. We do have the ability to customize through coding, but it's more of changing maybe the presentation layer or UI. Majority of the application is configured through point and click, and as you see, as we go through some of the product setup in a second, you'll see how that's done. So on this home screen, just wanted to kind of point out a couple things. We have our KPIs over here. These can change from different organization to different organizations, so just kind of keep that in mind. It's going to be the most relevant information that you want to see when you log in. And then finally, you have your message center. So when you're dealing with mediation and usage, especially, as well as with contracts, things expire, things fall through the cracks. You might get files coming in, you might get an API call that is including a customer that doesn't exist any longer, a rate that doesn't exist any longer, a contract that doesn't exist, a currency that might not have been set up, etc. So there's a huge opportunity when you're doing usage for things to fall through the cracks. The message center is a way to stop that from happening. Kind of orienting ourselves to the rest of the application. We're only going to show a couple pieces today, so just briefly talk about the other components. We have our product catalog, obviously. We'll spend most of the time in that today. Obviously, our account master, so we can see all the different accounts and the hierarchies. I mentioned we have a collections module. And then we have all of our accounting functions. So these will be things like bulk closing, bulk administration, our bill run tool, things like lockbox configuration, so on and so forth. Things that are really related to accounting, so revenue recognition, chart of accounts, things like that. That's not a topic of the demonstration today, but just wanted to know that that component is there. We are a full subledger, so all of those capabilities would be found in the accounting components. Obviously, reports and dashboards, you need to be able to analyze and visualize any of the data that comes in, and that's just really what it sounds like. And then the setup, and that's where the administration and the monitoring takes place. So with that, let me hop over into the products. What we're going to do, if you remember from my presentation, we're going to go through a couple of different types of products. They're what I would call hybrid pricing models. It's very common what we see in the SaaS space today. So it's not just a subscription, it's a subscription with overage or subscription with usage associated to that. So if we scroll down and we take a look at Store 3, transfer out 1 gig free. I should mention this is a fictional SaaS company that we're talking about today. And as we go into this product, this is essentially a subscription with included usage in it. So your typical subscription setup is what you see at the top. You know, what's the cycle? How are we syncing it with the billing cycle? Are we doing proration? Things like that you would do with subscription, you're going to see right here in the middle. And this is going to be, you know, prepaid, postpaid, things like that. And then as we scroll down, we're going to see the overage product. And so this Store 3 transfer out product, this product is an example of a usage product. So here we've taken a subscription and we've combined it with a usage product, and we've included a quantity of 1, and that is 1 gigabyte in this case. And we're sharing it across the account level. Now we could share this across multiple different levels, and we could include other products into this bucket, for example. So let's say there were 3 or 4 other products that we wanted to include. We could share those quantities and basically bring them together at the account level so that all of the usage would be counted. So if you used, you know, 10% of Store 3 transfer out and 10% of this other product and 10% of the other product, you'd still be under the threshold for the whole account. There's different aspects of that. One of the really great things about BillingPlatform is you can hover over these little help things and they'll tell you. And so, as I mentioned, account is a common one. We can share the usage across. We can also share it across a package or an invoice. And then finally, we have our pricing plan down here. So this is for the subscription component, which is $5 USD, and we don't have any other currency set up here. Now, this Store 3 transfer out product is a very complex usage-based product that is set up around tiers. So it's an incremental tier. As you use the different tier levels, you're going to be charged different amounts after you go past this 1 gig of included storage. We have another tier product coming up, so I'll go into that in a second. So let's talk a little bit about some other opportunities here. We mentioned in terms of the Excel type formula product. What's really unique to BillingPlatform is we have this concept of monetizing through a formula-based product. And let me go ahead and hop into this minimum commitment product. So if you think about minimum commitments, it's very common in just about any industry, but especially in SaaS, where you need to look at a number of different products that are on an invoice and determine if they've reached a minimum spend or a minimum threshold. And if they haven't, then you need to charge the difference. And so that's what's going on with this minimum commitment product here. I put it into edit mode so you can see some of the different aspects in here. So minimum commitment is a product type formula. We see that here. It's running on invoice close. So at the end of the billing period, it's going to evaluate to determine whether or not it needs to actually post the charge on there. And then finally, we see the formula here. So really interesting aspect of BillingPlatform is we can actually come in and interrogate the data model. So we need to, if we're looking to create this formula, we don't need to know the field names. We don't need to know all sorts of kind of different aspects that might not be too intuitive. We can actually just click and select the account. And let's say we wanted to go from the account to, I don't know, maybe the contract here. So we go down to different aspects and pull in different information. So we go to the contract and get the end date, for example. We have full access to the entire data model as part of this formula. And so here, what we've done, and just to show this formula that's been created, it's basically an if then else. So it's that's the syntax here. And so essentially what's going on is it's saying if the cost is greater than the rate, then we're not going to charge anything. And then otherwise we're going to do the difference between the rate and the cost. So what is the cost? In this case, we're actually summing. We're summing the cost of these two products here. So we see 18349, 18348. Those two products they basically have usage coming in, and we're going to be summing the cost of those products. if they are greater than the rate, which is down here, so if it's greater than 85 US or greater than 85 GBP or greater than 100 USD, then we won't charge anything. The minimum commitment will be zero. It will be met. If it's less than those two rates down below, then we're going to charge the difference, and that's where you see rate minus cost is the charge. And then in this case, the quantity is always going to be one. We're always going to have one minimum commitment. What's interesting here is you can see we're storing the rates here in this kind of multi-currency table down here. So we can have different rates for different currencies. And when we provision this to an account, we can actually override the rates. So just as an example, this is kind of the default setup, but we can have very customer specific pricing as well. Let's talk a little bit about attribute-based pricing. In BillingPlatform, we do attribute-based pricing through what we call rate classes, essentially. And I'll hop into one. Once again, this is a pretty typical way to do SaaS pricing. You're going to have different rate classes potentially based on region. And here we're in the Europe regional rates for a product called Store 3 Backup. And so this is, once again, it's a SaaS product for storage space. The way it's set up is it's a tiered product, and I'll go through this in a second. But what we're doing here, just from a high level as I show it, we're looking at Store 3 Backup, and it's going to be based on attributes in order to determine its rate. And it's also going to be used as a tiered product in order to determine its rate. So there's multiple factors going in the pricing. So as somebody consumes this backup space, we're going to go through the different attributes in the product, and then we're going to go through the different tiers to determine the actual rate of this product that's being used. So as you store more and more data, you're going to be charged more and more. The attribute piece comes in based on the data center that you're using. So if you're using EU, if you're using maybe Asia Pac, if you're using maybe a government data center, there's going to be different charges in there. So let's walk through this product real briefly. We see it's set up as a tiered product. It's set up as an incremental. So just about every possible way of tiering is actually supported in the application. We do incremental, per tier we charge, and then we do bulk. We also do something called a block. And then finally, we also do flat rate as well. So if you wanted to charge, 1 through 100 at one rate, and then not actually calculate quantity times rate, you can do that through a flat rate. And then we specify the aggregation time interval. So is it one invoice period, or is it more than one invoice period? And here we're just doing one invoice period. And then finally, we have our pricing plans. So everything in the application is effective dated. So we can actually, for example, if you had a contract that expires in a year, or there's an automatic uplift in a contract, we can actually model that out through our pricing plans, and it'll automatically take effect on the minute, day, second in terms of precision. So here, this is just an open-ended pricing plan. But what's unique here is that we're able to specify these attributes. So right now, as I mentioned, we only have one. In that case, it's just the data center. We only have one currency because this is just European regional rates. We could add in euro as well and specify it and make it basically another table. But here we can show, number one, I guess, how you can do attributes. So we have one attribute here, we could have 4 or 5 attributes. And then finally, we have our pricing incremental tiers on the far right here. So we see, 50,000 and then greater than 500,000 gigabytes and the different charges in there. Let's quickly show how we can create a new product while we're in here. So we were looking at this minimum commitment product previously. Let me go ahead and cancel out of this and show you guys how we can create a new product. So if we click on the new button, we'll see the ability to create different rating methods, we call them. So as we select different items within this product configuration, it's going to expose more and more information that we can then fill out. So for example, we come in with a name, obviously, and then we would specify the default rating method. What's really unique about BillingPlatform is we can actually override the rating method. So for example, if we created a subscription, we could actually provision that to a customer as a usage product. So it really cuts down on SKU proliferation. In this case, just showing you some of the out-of-the-box rating method or product types, I'll call it. Obviously, we have a bunch of different usage types. We have subscriptions, variable interval subscriptions. So if you're charging like every 13 days, you can set that up as a product as well. Discount, trials, late fees, per invoice, tax, revenue commitments, formulas, which we saw, parameterized formulas. That basically covers just about every different monetization capability that exists out there today. As you pick the different ones, so for example, we pick discount, it's going to open up different fields. It's going to change the configuration that I can then set up, for example. So are we doing a standard or are we doing a conditional? So we can make a discount conditional off of other products. we can make it a percentage off or a fixed amount. We can apply it to a pre-discounted balance or the remaining balance, and so on and so forth. So that's really how we would quickly be able to go ahead and create a new offering. So, it's all about agile monetization, and being able to have those default products set up out of the box makes it much easier to go ahead and monetize. Let's take a look at accounts real quick and see, how we've basically generate an invoice for these and show some data passing through. So before I hop into a specific account, one of the things I also want to talk about was in terms of hierarchy. So hierarchy is extremely important. Whether in this case we have a grandchild relationship, so it's basically 3-tier. We can do n-tier relationships here. What's really important about that is we're able to do things like consolidated invoicing. So all the charges from ABC Consulting will roll into its parent. So this Denver site, this Los Angeles site is going to roll into ABC Consulting, the way it's set up currently. We're also able to flow contract rates down from, say, ABC Corporation to all the children. So let's take a look into ABC Consulting real briefly. We can see this is going to be our 360-degree view of the customer. We're going to be able to obviously configure the screen through point-and-click methods. We can see our MRR, we can see our product mix, we can see their delinquent, we can see payments, aging, invoices, we can see the account information. So things like billing profile, like how often are we invoicing them, monthly, yearly, quarterly, fortnightly, whatever it might be. What's the closing day? Are we going to require approvals before the invoices are sent out to the customer? There's a whole bunch of different setups in here. What's the net terms, the net 30, net 60, net 0, etc. And then we can also store ACH information or credit card information in here as well. Billing address, shipping address. And we can also configure more. So if you need more addresses, it's just as simple as point and click to create additional fields on the application. And then tax configuration, right? So tax region, tax exempt, and there might be additional fields that we need to do for tax exempt status as well. And then finally, with usage, we really need to know where people are invoicing from, so that we make sure that the usage lands in the proper invoicing period. So we have this concept of time zone, both at the account level as well as at the product level, or excuse me, at the mediation level, and then finally the currency. So we can also rate another currency besides the one that they're being invoiced in. Let's take a look real quickly at an invoice here. Scrolled up a little bit too fast. So let's take a look at this one from March 31st, 2018. Once again, it's a demo environment, so bear with me on some of the data in here. It's all fictitious. We can click right into here and see, obviously on the left-hand side, we can see the invoice detail, tax information, delivery history. I mentioned our bill run tool, but let's take a real quick look at our standard out-of-the-box invoice template. And the way our templates work is we have basically point-and-click configuration of the template itself. So you pick the fields you want to put on the invoice, and then from there, we apply a skin on it. And a skin's going to basically decide where the components lay on the screen and any other visual elements in terms of colors, images, etc. So here we see our invoice summary, our aging, and then we see our summary. So if you remember, ABC Consulting is actually invoicing for multiple sites. And in this case, we're just doing a summary table at the top to show all the different charges. We can see our Store 3 backup product, our Store 3 transfer out 1 gig free product, our minimum commitment products being triggered here. So we can see all of that information right here. And we saw how those products were configured. And now we're seeing really the end result of usage being pushed through and what the product looks like. And then finally, we have our detail at the site level. So we can configure our templates really in any way, like I said, through point and click to break out. We can actually break out the different sites into different headers and all sorts of different things. It's really up to you in terms of configuration. So that pretty much concludes the demonstration for today. I will go ahead and open it up for some questions.
Hey, thanks, Brian. We do have a couple of questions that came in during the presentation. I have a question here. Someone wants to know what software we are using for mediation.
Great question. So we actually have our own mediation layer that's part of our product. And it's actually quite a differentiator in this space. Gives us a lot of flexibility. We can do things like deduplication. We can do things like merging of usage, all sorts of other kind of custom routines as well.
Oh, fantastic. Another one that we have, someone says they'd like to notify their account contacts when contracts are ready for renewal. Is that possible with this platform?
It is, and it's something we didn't spend too much time on in this demonstration. Maybe we do it in another demonstration, is through our workflow layer. So our workflow layer allows you to create new records, It allows you to send emails. It allows you to generate documents. It's a very common scenario. I like to say it's like the if this, then else, or if this, then that, service out there that people are familiar from the consumer space. It's very much like that for enterprise software, where you pick the criteria for this action to fire, and then the action fires. And that action could be, like I said, an email. It could be a record creation, an outbound call to another system, or it could be a document generation.
Okay, great. Looks like we had one more last minute question here. I'd like to keep track of inventory costs for revenue recognition rules. Can I do that with BillingPlatform?
That's a great question. So this is a perfect example of how you can extend the platform to actually keep track of the costs of your inventory. So this comes up quite a bit when people were dealing with hardware and the price of that hardware changes, and they need to set effective dates and end dates on that hardware in order to use it for revenue recognition, or even they can use it for other reasons. This is a perfect example of how you would go in and create a new object, maybe you call it inventory, and then you can add as many fields as you need to basically map the actual product, maybe the effective date, maybe the end date, price, and so on and so forth. And then we can use that anywhere in the application. We can use it as part of revenue recognition, but we can also do other things based on that as well through our workflow engine.
Great, Brian. That answers those questions very well. Looks like that's it for questions today. So I want to thank you, Brian, for the demonstration, and thank you all for attending. If you'd like to learn more about how BillingPlatform delivers every SaaS pricing model for large scale and complex billing scenarios, please visit our website, billingplatform.com. Thank you all for attending, and hope to talk to you soon.